Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another edition of BevNet's Elevator Talk Livestream. I'm Ray Latif, the editor and producer of BevNet's Taste Radio podcast, the #1 podcast for the food and beverage industry. As always with Elevator Talk Livestream, we'll be speaking with entrepreneurs from across the country about their innovative and disruptive brands and news related to those brands. Joining me as a co-host for this episode is Trent Moffitt, the owner of Gotham Brand Managers. Trent, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Ray?
I'm doing fantastic. How are things in New York?
Hot, really hot.
They are here as well. Gotham Brand Managers, I've known you for close to 9 years at this point. The company has grown quite a bit since then. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you work with emerging and early stage brands.
Yeah, so it's exciting. Looking back in the 9 years, I was an entrepreneur and I got started, just like everybody else, just, one account, one guy at a time. And really been a lot of fun ride. It continues to be fun working with, brand new brands all the time and new folks that are entering the category. It's certainly a lot of energy, but we've grown. We started with just pre-sales and brokering, and what we found most effective is just putting feet on the street and having people in the stores, being responsible for the brand, attacking the store level, making sure the orders are in. If there's a product sold out, we're there. We've developed to the point where we've got warehousing in trucks, refrigerated and on, so that we can, within 2 days, get the product on the shelf, get a place where it needs to be, and start hopefully getting the pulls. Up until COVID, we had our whole demo team that would go in store and do in-store demos to try and get brands recognized, get pulls off the shelves as well. So that was a win for everybody, and we hope to bring that back in the fall. But alongside some of the pretty cool brands that we've been a part of, from looking all the way back, LaCroix, Eternal Water, Brad's,
Runa
was a case one, so that was really brand one. Thank you. But as they got big, we were able to build a merchandising team right alongside of it. And originally it was just in New York to help with local chains. That grew with Whole Foods, and now today we're national, hitting a lot of chains besides Whole Foods. We use them as an anchor, but certainly we've noticed we can capture voids and keep people in stock and look for additional opportunities where the brands can really perform. So it's been successful on both ends. So thank you.
Now, you and I chatted for our BevNet education video series, a platform that helps early stage and emerging brands grow on the market, learn the ropes, so to speak. We talked specifically about brokerage and merchandising and the importance of both. I think there might be some confusion about what a broker does, what a merchandiser does. Can you kind of explain that in about 60 seconds? Because that's all you got.
That's fair. So look, brokers do things that well above what I'm capable of. They can bring you into Whole Foods. They can get you authorized in a Kroger. They have relationships with the buyers and they see them, they don't have an office already in the same building. They have weekly meetings or monthly meetings already set up where just like you trying to poach them. I might have a better relationship, but still I'm one brand at a time bringing it in with nothing behind me. So brokers do a tremendous job on that, but they often have a lot of brands and they're not seeing what happens in the store. So if you broker, a buyer's only going to see how many were sold that month. And when you look at that and what was affecting inside the store to make your sales, they're not going to see that. So if the product never made it to the shelf, it was never in the cold cooler where it's supposed to be, if the buyers never reordered, if the sales tags were never up, none of that stuff the buyer would see. He was just going to look that you only sold 5 units in a month, and to him that would be a fail. But with people in the street and looking at your brand, and especially in the beginning, taking a look to make sure you're right where you need to be on the shelf, making sure the reorders are coming in, make sure the managers are aware of your brand, you can take advantage.
And that's exactly what you guys do, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. If you're just tuning in, you're watching BevNet's Elevator Talk Livestream. I'm Ray Latif, joined by Trent Moffitt, who is the owner of Gotham Brand Managers. We're going to be chatting with entrepreneurs from across the U.S., literally, about their innovative brands and new products and news related to those brands. Trent, you want to get to our first guest of the show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. All right. We have a duo from Quokka Brew, the co-founders that are George Pasantino and Ofek Arush. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, we're excited.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Quokka Brew, I saw a couple emails in my inbox. I want to say it was like within the last month. You guys are pretty much brand new, right?
Yeah. So we started the brand back in fall of 2018. We were studying for finals at UC Berkeley, just drinking coffee like a lot of college students. We started to notice we were getting super jittery, anxious, and eventually just totally crashing.
Yeah, and then we also just noticed that we couldn't find any healthy, ready-to-drink coffees around us. A lot of them were just loaded with sugar and calories. So that was when me and George kind of looked at each other and said, okay, let's try to create a healthy, jitterless coffee.
Yeah, so we spent the next 5 months just on research development, creating our blend of organic amino acids and brain-boosting nootropics, which are proven to eliminate the jitters, anxiety, and crash from caffeine without sacrificing any of the energy.
Yeah, and then in terms of, I mean, we're still brand new, but we have expanded. We're now in 7 different college universities across California and have 114 student ambassadors. So we've actually, George probably has the old bottle, right here. We expanded with those for the past few months, but we just released our brand new oat milk lattes in our new cans. That's what they look like. And this is like our new brand. We launched on Indiegogo actually a week ago and just pre-sold $42,000 worth in 1 week. So we're super excited for this whole new switch.
Outstanding. Well, I apologize for calling you completely brand new. Maybe it was just the oat milk latte that I was thinking of. But the
oat milk latte is brand new.
Yes, the packaging looks fantastic. And, I wonder, oat milk lattes, we're seeing so many of them come to market now. What you think about when you were talking about your suppliers and your sourcing providers about trying to create a product that was differentiated from the other ones that are coming to market?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest thing really, the differentiator for us is our blend of organic amino acids and nootropics, which basically counteract the jittery side effects, the anxious feeling that you get from caffeine, as well as just the crash. So that was what we spent like 5 months working on with chemists and food scientists. The oat milk latte is kind of just the vehicle that we're taking that to market. It's really just the blend, and we want to sell the blend by itself eventually with other variants, but who doesn't love an oat milk latte? So we just put our blend into the oat milk latte.
Gotcha. Trent, do you love oat milk lattes?
I do love oat milk lattes.
Again, a lot of them coming to market. A lot of plant-based milks being incorporated into cold brew coffees out there. What are your thoughts on Quokka and what the co-founders discussed?
Well, I was looking at this when it was came over, and it I was just talking honestly with my son. He's a student, and he said, "Dad, how come nothing ever comes over that's jitterless? That he didn't use the word jitterless, obviously, but he said, with a crash or where I just get so crazy that I can't even function. I'm looking at a book and I can't read because I'm so hyped up." Because he doesn't like to drink energy drinks. He's pretty health conscious, so he won't drink the 0-calorie energy drinks. So he's in between on that, and he goes, "How come nobody ever comes through with something like that?" And I said, "Well, people like to drink coffee. They like the smell of it. They like the taste of it. They like all the benefits that coffee has. But in addition to all that, people are drinking coffee forever." So I think you guys got a real opportunity here, because I've seen it in tea. I've seen it in other vehicles where, they say it won't have to crash, won't get the jitterness, won't be able to focus, all those good things. But if you can come across with a great flavor and coffee, which everybody seems to love, why not? Some of the other guys are trying to pitch, drink your coffee in the morning, but then come to us in the afternoon. People like to drink coffee all the time. So I think,
exactly. That's exactly kind of how we were looking at it too. Like, we love drinking coffee. We just didn't like the jitters, anxiety, and the crash that came with it.
Yeah, the way we first kind of came up with the idea, me and George were studying for finals, and I was just all over the place, and he was like, "Hey man, chill out." And I was like, "I can't." And then we just looked at each other and said, "Okay, maybe there's something here."
No, and I'm always that jerk in the afternoon that's looking for that half calf, and then they got to brew the half, the decaf just for me, and they're never too happy with it. So and it still never worked. So.
Now, Trent was talking about demoing as being, a critical part of what he and his team do. I'm interested to hear about your demo strategy, your trial strategy, George and Ofek, and for Trent to give his thoughts on how you're getting out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when we launched the brand, we were still actually both juniors in college. So we didn't have the big money to go to the big grocery stores. We started with just a table on Berkeley's main plaza. We would just bring a table down there, bunch of coffees, little sample cups, and we'd just give out free samples. So we actually started our brand really just demoing every day for basically an entire semester. It worked really well at UC Berkeley. We ended up building this ambassador program and ended up getting this cult following. We ended up replicating it at different California universities. So we started with demoing, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like George said, it worked at Berkeley, so we took it to Cal Poly Slow, UC Santa Barbara, and just kind of all over California and built it up. And yeah, I think at least from what we've seen, demoing is the best thing, because when people get to try the product, that's when they buy. Obviously now with COVID, things are a bit tougher, but working around it.
Mhm.
What's the workaround?
So for us, I mean, we were a primary on college campus store, like student-run startup. Like we'd sell on college campuses. For us, it's just selling entirely online, direct to consumer, which at first was really scary because these were refrigerated glass bottles, which, if you're familiar with shipping, are not very friendly.
Yeah.
So really just growing through online, trying to figure out that whole era or thing. But we've ended up growing month over month, with last month being our biggest month to date on zero ad spend, all organic.
So I think where we did get lucky, it's we already have, like George said, the following from all the different universities. So now when we launched this new latte, like we said, we raised $42,000 in pre-sales in our first week. We just closed our first week yesterday. And that was just from people who already tried it in person. So we did get lucky there because they already kind of know what we tasted like. But yeah, hopefully things do start to open up soon and it'll make it easier, because we'd love to sample these all over the US.
Trent, your thoughts on the strategy and the approach, sort of during a pandemic?
I love what they did first and foremost, finding brand ambassadors. That's going old school. And I was actually, when I was online, I saw a couple of ambassadors actually working with you guys to posting their feedback online, which was great to see. We've done some things in the city that have been allowed. We're handing out full cans instead of being in a store and pouring cups, and I think that's been pretty effective. Not as effective being right in front of the cooler and watching the sales go through, but when you've got some account density and you want to just grab trial, if you can get to the right customer, there's no reason why you can't find workaround. There's people out there, just it's finding the right thing and getting the right setup. So.
And George, Trent just mentioned the right customer. I wonder, who is the right customer for Quokka Brew? What does your target consumer look like? Got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, okay, let's try to do it fast. So we know it's college students. Like we said, we were all over kind of like the different universities. That being said, we also went to the SF Coffee Festival beginning of last year, is when we were selling the small glass bottles. And we were blown away by the support, people of all the demographics buying it. And I mean, we had to basically we had to make way more coffees than we first envisioned we would sell. So for us, I think it's really everyone who just experienced the jitters. A lot of college students just, want that energy without the negative side effects. So we know that's for sure one of our demographics. In terms of other people, it's really just people all across who just don't like the jitters, don't like feeling the crash, and don't want to settle for, a coffee that makes them feel that way. So that's kind of like where we're at right now, but we definitely believe that by the end of this, hopefully most Americans will see the value in this.
Well, I certainly hope so. That's an ambitious goal for sure. But it sounds like you guys are off to a great start. It's always amazing to see young entrepreneurs, get into this business, and you guys just come with this enthusiasm and this positive attitude that is so infectious and so important in our industry. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thank you so much for being on the live stream today. Good luck with everything going forward, and please stay in touch.
Thank you guys so much. And be sure to check out our Indiegogo.
Yeah, thank you for all the support and the opportunity to pitch our product. We really appreciate it. Absolutely. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye. All right, great stuff. Quokka Brew. Like I said, it's a pretty busy category. It's a pretty tough category to win in coffee. But if you do have the enthusiasm, if you do have the excitement, if you do have the drive to see your way through it, hey, we've seen some pretty incredible brands make their way in this industry. I think it's time to move on to our second guest of this episode, and that is Matt Weiss, who is the founder and CEO of RIND Snacks. Matt, how are you?
Great to see you, Ray. I'm doing well.
Fantastic. Folks watching might be familiar with Matt for a number of reasons. Number one, he's got a killer product. Number two, you might have heard his podcast interview with me in episode 67 of Taste Radio Insider, which was called Your Side Hustle Could Be Worth Millions, and It Needs a Strategy. And that was a fantastic episode. Thanks so much for joining me. For folks who aren't familiar with RIND Snacks, tell us a little bit about the brand.
Be my pleasure. Thanks again for having me. So RIND, like our brand name would suggest, we make bold, craveable, authentic fruit snacks with real appeal. So our focus is on the rind, where other brands might consider that a byproduct or a food scrap. that to us is sort of the crown jewel. It's where the greatest concentration of fiber, nutrition, and vitamins reside, and yet it's one of the most commonly discarded edible scraps. And that's where all the flavor, all the zest, all the texture that gives fruit snacks real zing and bite. That's what we embrace at RIND. So we encourage consumers to keep it real and eat the peel.
And I do. And it is, like I said, it's a killer product. You know, when you first started seeing dried kiwi on the market, it was neon green, and you're like, that doesn't look like kiwi to me. And then you see Matt's product, and it's dried fruit. You know, what dried fruit's supposed to look like, and then you taste it. I mean, it's just like there's worlds apart, worlds apart. And you have a new product which has come to market. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So a little product shout out here. So this is our newest blend, the fifth in our lineup. It's called Cocoa Melon. It's really a taste of summer in a bag. It's a mix of 3 ingredients. It's organic, unsweetened coconut, watermelon, and cantaloupe. So we took some amazing summer fruits. They're just evocative of sort of ripeness and happiness in the summertime, and found a way, even though they have very high water, content, to get the right yield and capture all the goodness and nutrients and retain the rind. I think it's very hard to find a melon-based dried fruit snack, and period, but one that also retains some of the inner rind. I'll give you an example of what kind of a watermelon slice looks like. So it's maybe looks like a little pizza, but it is tastes like cotton candy. There's no added sugar, no sulfites, and it's like summer in a bite. So watermelon was a fruit that I gave you a little, I think a little teaser at that, podcast interview we did. And I was thrilled to be able to launch it here right in the peak of summer.
I almost slammed my head into the camera trying to get a hold of that watermelon rind, but it looks amazing. I haven't tried it yet. I know you sent some to our office, but I haven't tried it yet. Trent, you're no stranger to seeing dried fruit snacks in bodegas across New York City. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how, a premium version, a premium dried fruit snack can win on the market, and what you think of Matt's, strategy of this upscale dried fruit snack for a mainstream consumer.
I think it's great. I think what he's developed is not a niche, but secondly, the next version of what's coming out. It's got all the nutrients, it's got everything that you're looking for. It's cutting the waste. It's doing everything, and he's got great packaging. He's really developed something that's probably looking for the next tier of fruits and snacks that are out there. So especially packaged fruits. The price point's a little higher, but I think it's warranted, especially when you're looking at what he has and what's available in the market right now. A lot of stuff is just not. A lot of them have sugar or extra additives. He's got none of that. And when you look at it, the one thing I'd always say is you've got to try it. Once you try that stuff, you're hooked. So we had a couple bags in the office, and everybody plowed through it, and we're looking for more. So he's definitely got something. It's just a matter of trial and persistence for sure.
Matt, I mentioned bodegas in New York City, but could you give us an indication or a little bit of information about where your product is sold on a retail and regional level?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I did want to just quickly go back. Thank you, Trent. I did want to quickly go back to the title of the BevNet Insider podcast we did or Taste Radio of your side hustle, and share the news with you that it is a side hustle no longer. I am all in, and you can't, build a big business as a hobby. And RIND has taken over my life in the best way. So we had a successful seed round that was closed in January, and we hit the ground running right into COVID. Interesting timing, where we launched into 3 really marquee banners, some key accounts. One being Whole Foods Mid-Atlantic, which is their largest region, about 60 stores, everything South Jersey all the way down to Virginia. Wegmans, which is marquee chain in the Northeast, and the Fresh Market, about 150 stores throughout the Mid-Atlantic and all the way down into Florida. So those are sort of our anchor accounts. And then I had built distribution in New York City independents of another 300 to 400. So between those 3 banners and the 300 to 400, we're closing in on probably 600 or 700 points of distribution, where I'd say we have really started to build and see momentum in the brand is direct to consumer alt channels. So not the traditional, RINDsnacks.com or Amazon, although we are there and are investing there, but what I consider sort of the new alt, and what was maybe travel retail or picking up snacks at the airport or at the Hudson News or at Google's corporate cafeteria. For us, it's now grocery subscription box. So online delivery of whether it's Fresh Direct, which we'll be launching into in September, whether it's Hungry Root, Purple Carrot, Imperfect Foods. There's a number of these sort of groceries delivered at the convenience. You're browsing the aisles at home and it's delivered in a sort of perishable box to your door on a weekly basis. That is really exciting, and where we're seeing some really tremendous trial and growth since we can't demo as much in traditional grocery.
For sure. Trent, Matt mentioned a few different channels, natural, some e-com, and what he called alt retail. Are there any other channels that you think RIND would excel at, and how hard are they to break into for a brand like his?
I think it's pretty simple to break into. It's a matter of getting pulled off the shelf, right? So you got to be in the right placement. So he's not recreating a whole new category. He's just he improved on it, really. So that makes it a lot easier to tackle exactly where you find anything close to what he has. So I think any snack opportunities, whether it be an airport, to your point, a bodega, a deli, a place where you grab a sandwich, a place where you just want to take it home or take it on the road. So I think that's the easy part. So I think that's the opportunity for him, is really finding those secondary placements where you can really find it, because he's got great packaging. So rather than just be on a shelf with everything else, can he do something, on a stacker or on a center aisle with the turn? I think those would be perfect for it. And it's just a perfect purchase.
We've been talking a lot about demoing, and Matt, you have some small demo packs. If you go to trade shows, you have the actual dried fruit that's laid out for people to sample. Going forward, we may be seeing less and less of that, more of those small trial packs that you have. How impactful have those trial packs been in terms of attracting new customers?
They've been great. Our single serve, 1.5 ounce servings that we use for all sorts of trial, an opportunity to sort of bundle. And if people on our site buy 2 flavors, we'll throw in some samples of a 3rd flavor that we want to get them hooked on. What I'd say is, these are interesting times to really have launched in both retail and e-com in a big way, where it's no longer a side hustle. And we've been pleasantly surprised. Out of every disruptive period, there's always big opportunities. And one aspect of what you're describing of sort of sampling being put on the back burner, active sampling, is a lot of grocers are cutting back on their bulk sets. So bulk bins where people would kind of get the communal scooper and maybe make their own trail mix using dried fruit. I think that's really going to be impacted by a post-COVID world, and will benefit packaged snacks like RIND that have sort of all the nutrient density of a snack, but in an individual serving, especially with a product that we hope, grabs consumers' attentions off shelf.
That's such a great point. I guess I didn't really think about that, but the bulk aisle, no offense to bulk seeds and snacks and things like that, that would be the furthest thing from my agenda when I'm going to the grocery store. Matt, I'm so happy to hear that, you're all in. I know you were always all in with RIND, but the fact that the side hustle has now become your full-time job, I really have, as you know, have an affinity for what you do and what you've created. Thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. And for folks who haven't had an opportunity to listen to that podcast with Matt, please do so. It's a really great one. Episode 67 of Taste Radio Insider.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Trent. It's great to always chat with you guys and appreciate all the support.
Indeed. Hope to see you again. Hope to see you again soon.
Sorry.
No problem, Trent. Hey, I'm taking up too much of your time. You're the star here. I'm just the guy who's facilitating the conversation.
I just fixed my battery issue, so I'm pretty happy.
Okay. I'm happy about that too, Trent. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is BevNet's Elevator Talk live stream. I'm Ray Latif, joined by Trent Moffitt, the owner of Gotham Brand Managers. Let's move on to our third guest for this episode. That's Sarah Stender, who is the founder and CEO of Three Mountains Tea. Sarah, how are you?
Hi, Ray. I'm great. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to see you. Three Mountains Tea. I'm sort of familiar with the brand, at least in the RTD format, but can you tell us a bit about the company and how it got formed?
Sure. So Three Mountains is a social enterprise. We're based here in Asheville, North Carolina, and working with people in Rwanda, a small country in East Africa, since 2007. I launched Three Mountains in 2016, and now we have two CPG brands. We have a Silverback, which is a sparkling non-alcoholic tea made with Camellia sinensis leaves from Rwanda, sourced directly, and Tima, which means heart in the native language of Rwanda. That's our loose leaf line of teas, grown organically, certified fair trade, also sourced directly from cooperative farmers in Rwanda.
Amazing stuff. I wonder, do you lead with the flavors? Do you lead with the story about the brand and the farmers you work with in Rwanda? What's the biggest way to draw attention to your brand? What are consumers most attracted to?
Yeah, I heard an interview you did recently with the founder of Miyoko's. I loved it. She said, "We are a mission with a company." And I wrote it down. I love that. It really resonated with me. And I would say first, we do lead with the mission. There's so many great products out there. There's a lot of great drinks out there. And I think our story is a little bit different. And the impact that we are hoping to make in not just Rwanda, but also in the States. We launched a campaign called Three for We at the start of the shutdown. So even though we are a startup, no matter how much profit we're making, we always want to come first with, this is about building community. It's about offering products that can bring people together, especially during these times. It can help bridge the divide between cultures, even when we can't travel, and serves as a point of education too.
I want to ask you about the carbonated component. Was that always the case? Did you always have a carbonated tea, or did you add the carbonation, the sparkling part of it after?
Well, I started as a fair trade importer under the name of Three Mountains. So I was introducing Rwandan tea to US consumers. I actually started working with coffee farmers in 2007, and now we're seeing some single origin Rwandan coffee in the markets here, but I wasn't seeing any Rwandan tea. I didn't even know tea grew in Rwanda until I lived there. I lived there for a year in 2009, and it's some of the best in the world. East Africa actually produces 17% of the world's tea. So I had the tea already, and I don't drink alcohol, and I'm surrounded by all these breweries, and it came to me that we could make a non-alcoholic option for breweries using the tea that I had. So I started experimenting with the tea and creating something that even looked like beer. I learned how to keg and started, first I actually tried a nitro tea, and then I started carbonating it, and it was like a peanut butter and jelly moment. I mean, I was in this brewery and we all tasted it, and then the brewery was launching their grand opening that week, and we had my first Silverback recipe there for people to try, and it was a huge hit.
Wow. You hit the iron with the iron, hitting with the iron is hot. Is that the phrase? Because we're starting to see so many folks gravitate toward those non-alcoholic options out there. And if your product tastes anything like it sounds like it tastes, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of customers. A lot to unpack here, Trent. Number one, what are your thoughts on sort of leading with that mission? And have you seen brands? I know you've worked with Bruna, but have you seen a lot of success, with brands that are talking about what they do, their origin story, et cetera, versus ones that, are just there for scale and volume?
Sure. I mean, Bruno's a perfect example of that, except they're pulling their ingredient, like what you said, from South America with the co-op, with the farmers, et cetera, and really developed that whole story around it. So just like you said, mission first. I think when it's authentic to that, it really carries the brand a lot further than other brands that are, you know, giving 1% of their revenues or 1% of their profits when there are no profits. This is a real deal where if you can tell that story, simply told, you know, 17 to 20% of the tea comes from that region. Nobody's aware of that right now that I would know. That if you can pass that story along or somehow motivate people from that region to help you tell the story, Bruno is fantastic at that. You know, using the governments on both sides to help them, you know, tell their story and open up other doors. That then you can lead your vehicle with your tea right behind it. So it's one leading the other, and it seems like it's extremely real, and I think that's a good thing. So.
Well, the key word I think in what you just said, Trent, is tell it simply. You know, and I think that's one of the most challenging things to do when you are talking about, you know, an origin story. It's hard to tell that in 5 seconds and 10 seconds. You know, Sarah, how do you tell that story succinctly?
That's a great question. That's been my work really for the past year. And, you know, it helps to be at trade shows telling the story a million times in one day. Our tagline is the spirit of resilience. And so that's what we stand for, the spirit of resilience. I got my start working with Rwandan genocide survivors, and they inspire me every day, you know, through hard days that every entrepreneur has. And I want to inspire the rest of the world by their story of not only surviving, but overcoming the worst possible atrocity. And it's a story of hope. And so I think that, you know, for ages, tea has been a vehicle to bring people together. And so this is a modern twist on a timeless category.
A modern twist on a timely category. I like that. I'm sorry, Trent, go ahead.
Yeah, how do you separate the two? So when you're going to distributors or retail, that you have the tea in the bags, and then you've got the beverage on one side. You go to the same distributors, you go to the same retail with both. You've separated it. How do you work both? Two brands.
Yeah, we don't use tea bags because all of our products are plastic free. But the loose leaf tea has been a much easier product to sell direct to retailers and direct to consumers, mainly because it's lightweight, it's easier to ship. And then the silverback, you know, we do pitch both products to most retailers and most distributors. They don't always go for both. It depends on what category they're reviewing at the time and what's trending best. But that's ideal, is working with the same distributor for both lines. And just, you know, I see a couple of other brands doing that, where like Guayaki is an example. They have a great drink in a can, they have bottles, and then they also sell the loose leaf in a bag, you know, just in case you love it so much and you want to start playing around with the tea at home. It's a great add-on.
For sure. You know, Guayaki, when you think of Guayaki, it's synonymous with yerba mate, and you know, hopefully that Three Mountains tea will be synonymous with Rwandan tea. I wonder, Trent, you know, Sarah talked about the fact that this could be an option. The beverages could be an option for someone who is sober curious or looking for an alcohol alternative. Then again, we are starting to see some more sparkling teas come to market, and a lot of consumer interest around that segment. What do you think is the best way to get a consumer to drink it? Is it that sort of sober curious approach and positioning, or is it saying we have a refreshing sort of soda alternative option as sparkling tea?
I was thinking about your question this morning that you just asked, and for me, it's really, you want to find the right accounts that are going to be brand ambassadors for your brand. I mean, it's pretty simple. Looking for the health food markets, whether it be Provisions in the Hamptons, Westerly in Manhattan, going to some fast casual restaurants, you know, not even restaurants, but sandwich shops like Lenny's. So something where the buyer is going to get behind it. You're not going to have a ton of competition, but somebody's going to be able to pick up your can and look at it and read the whole story. And I think that's going to do you a lot of justice. So I think getting in front of buyers with this, they're going to understand it really quickly. So picking and choosing the right ones right up front will be helpful. Also online, I think you got a great story to tell, and there's no reason somebody wouldn't just click right off the bat, knowing that, you know, it's going to a good place and doing a good deed. So, and they're getting something great out of it. And to your other point, we've seen a lot of carbonated teas recently. They're delicious, and it's kind of a little bit of functionality, more taste, and certainly people still love the sparkling. So it's gone a long way. It's a big category.
I agree, and we've had I think 2 or 3 sparkling tea brands on this show in recent weeks, and it's an interesting category. It is developing pretty quickly. Sarah, we've got about 30 seconds left. I wonder, in terms of how you go to market, what are those key retailers for you right now, and how do you pitch them when you are trying to sell this story? Because as we mentioned, and as you talked about, there's a lot of different ways you could tell this story. There's a lot of different ways you could approach that retail buyer.
We launched last summer with Chuck's Finer Foods and went into all the fresh market stores, and they've been amazing partners. We have 2 more flavors now, so we've got 4 in the lineup. But I think the goal is to keep it really simple. This is a healthy, simple, and delicious alternative to everyday drinks. And oh, by the way, you're making a difference when you choose this product.
Outstanding. Well, I'm so glad we had an opportunity to chat with you, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for listening to Taste Radio, and please stay in touch. Let us know if we can do anything to help.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Three Mountains Tea. Have you had a chance to try that? I don't know if it's...
I haven't tried it. It looked amazing. Certainly, I like the teas. They're no question.
We've got to have Sarah send you some product. Perhaps it'll break into New York City via Gotham brand managers. Outstanding. Sarah gave us the thumbs up off we like that. All right, so let's move on to our 4th guest for this episode of the BevNet Elevator Talk live stream. That's Deanna Karim, who is the CEO and founder of Good Deeds. Deanna, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? I said Karim, but it could be Karim.
Karim is right. It's actually Dina, though.
Oh.
So the first name was wrong, but
Dina.
that's okay.
Oh, Deana. Is that?
Yeah. So my parents are immigrants, and so when they moved to the U.S. and I was born, they wanted to name me Dina as my middle name, and they thought like James Dean, and then they thought add an A, so it's Dina.
I love it. Dina, fantastic name. As I mentioned, the founder and CEO of Good Deeds.
Yes.
Tell us about the brand.
Sure. I started in 2015. I had my first son in 2012. And then in 2013, I was just feeling really kind of just sluggish, and diabetes does run in my family. So I started finding alternatives to things without sugar. And I started making cookies, and my sister said, these are really good. Are they sugar-free? I was like, yes, they are. And so she goes, you should sell them. And she now says she regrets telling me that, because I took that idea and I ran with it. I decided to do mixes because I kept going back and forth. Should I do grass-fed butter for the cookies? Should I do coconut oil? But this gives people the option. And then I launched in 2015 in October. A month later, I got pregnant with my second. Then I got let go from my main job 8 months pregnant. And then I launched my second mix, which was my brownie mix. And I was in the hospital recovering from my C-section. And I looked at my husband. I was like, my brownies are #1 on Amazon. He's like, really? He goes, calm down. Like, you just had surgery. So don't get excited. I was like, oh my God. And we looked at each other. He goes, okay, like, this is your time now. You don't have your other job. This is your time. You're going to do this full time. And I haven't looked back from then. So it's
amazing. Congratulations on that. Where are your products sold?
They are sold on my site, on Amazon. I'm actually in Amazon Canada and UK, and I just got distribution with KeHE earlier this year. So we're in a few, like about 17 stores in the South and on the East Coast. And we just actually got signed with Walmart.com. So we're going to be launching there soon as well. And we have our international distributors in Mexico, the Dominican, Puerto Rico, and Panama.
I love it. I love it a lot. And, if you go to your website, if you go to gooddees.com, GOODDEES, and the first thing you see is this ridiculously mouthwatering picture of a chocolate cake. Now, if your mixes produce anything like that, I have a feeling you're going to have a lot of buyers.
Thank you.
Yes, because it looks incredible. Trent, are you I know you've got some kids at home. Are you a baking guy? Do you bake at home? And when you are trying to bake, if you are trying to bake, do you look for kind of a simple one-step solution like Good D's?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because obviously with the pandemic, the kids being home, I would come home every other day and either brownies were made, cupcakes were made, cakes were made. It was nonstop. The sink was loaded. There were snacks out there, so I was getting fat, and everybody's screaming about washing dishes. So it's I'm sure that helped to lift there, and to find something a better version of what we were doing would be a no-brainer. And certainly found that in pancakes. We found it in certain other areas of the store, and we started looking for that. So it worked out well for us to start experimenting with different things. So I would love to find your stuff in a store and be able to look for it now and be able to bring it home, because if we can find something that's better for you at the same time, create that ritual of doing something at home with the kids, or my wife was doing it with them. I mean, it's a great thing. And when it comes out of the oven, there's nothing better. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, that was our goal. It was just to make something that didn't have sugar, didn't have gluten, and that was easy to make, but tasted just as good as the higher carb counterpart, because I actually love food a lot.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah, I love it. So I don't want to if I'm not going to eat something if it doesn't taste good, but if I can eat something and it's not horrible for me, then I figured that was a win-win. And a lot of the times the gluten-free flours that you use and the sweeteners you use can be really complicated for people. So I made it my goal to make it a one bowl stop. So just put the wet ingredients, put the mix, and then that's it. Because a lot of the recipes out there for low carb items, gluten-free items, sugar-free can be really complicated. And you don't want to scare people away from trying to eat healthy because they're making the effort.
Are you able to produce everything at the same co-packer?
So for the most part, yes. And I love my co-packer. They were the only ones who gave me a chance when I first started out. So I'm very loyal and we've grown a lot together. But because these are all actually my recipes, all my intellectual properties, it's very easy. I'm the food scientist and the research and developer. So when I have an idea, I kind of just go with it. Like I just released the line of Just Add Water frostings because it's so hot. And so they are actually the first sugar-free Just Add Water frostings ever to be on the market. So it's been really, really cool.
That is absolutely incredible. So you create the formulations for scalable products like so, a lot of folks, they start out, they're making something in their kitchen, they take it to a food scientist and say, okay, here's how you scale your recipe. But you do that on your own. I
do it myself. I have my scale. I studied the ingredients as much as I could. And I'm so familiar with them now. And so all the mixes are my formulas, and the Just Add Water frostings are my formulas. And I'm very proud of that. And that's why I know exactly what's going into it. And I can tell when a company's not making their products, because you'll see a customer ask them a question like, is this, the way it's labeled, is it this product or this product? And they can't answer them. And I'm like, I know what it is, but I'm not going to answer, but I know. So it's very interesting because I know exactly what goes into them. I have to be as up to date as possible with anything with the FDA. I had to redo some of the formulas because the fiber I was using before was no longer considered 100% fiber. So I reformulated all of them, and I was able to do it in a span of 4 months versus someone who would have to go to a food scientist and redo all of them. So that I think has been very helpful for me.
I can imagine what's also been helpful, as I mentioned, or some of the images that you see of your finished products. And, we haven't talked a ton about packaging. Trent talked a little bit about Matt's packaging with RIND, but Trent, I'm curious to see your thoughts, given that, again, as you know, it takes a customer maybe 2 seconds to decide whether or not they're going to pick up a new product. What are your thoughts on Good D's packaging and any considerations you might make in terms of things that they might need to update, change, or just leave as is?
Honestly, I liked it. And I was thinking about some of the pancake mixes that are out there that became very authentic after the fact of you having some of the other brands that have been out there for a while, Bisquick, et cetera. And then even looking at some of the Duncan Hines and some of the other stuff in that mix, it's going to stand out when you go side by side. So because you have so many different items, I would love to see it, where you've got your cookies and your cake mixes. This is where this one would go, where you got your bread mixes. You want to be next to the flour. So if you can put yourself next to like items, got a huge chance for success, because I think you pop next to some of these brands that have just been so stagnant for so long. You're going to have that opportunity. It's the problem is if you get stuck in a part of the store that's just that health organic section, the keto paleo section, where 10% of the store might go into because that's the only thing they're looking for. it's really pulling away from the masses to find something better for you, like I would be doing in the same aisle. So if you can get that done with the buyer and you can convince the buyers to do that, I think you got a home run, because I think the
Wow, that's
packaging
so helpful. Thank you.
and
That's such a good tip.
Dina, I'm going to ask you for a tip. You know, being number one on Amazon, or being number one in your category on Amazon, is something I'm assuming a lot of our audience and a lot of our entrepreneurs watching would love to do. How did you do it?
Honestly, the brownies was really just good luck. I actually started the company with just $5,000, and I haven't had any outside investors. I was very bootstrapped, and I reinvested every single penny I got. I would take the baby in the stroller, take the packages myself, and I did not spend money where if I felt like I could do it, I was like, I will do it and I will save the money. And so with that one, it really was just word of mouth. I'm very much part of the low carb community online. That's where I kind of like found other recipes. And so they knew who I was. And then when I launched it, it was, I'm just part of the community. So they knew, and they are such a huge support system for me. And I've become friends with so many of them. So I find that I got lucky in that sense, that I just happened to be part of the community. They happened to support me, and it was very much word of mouth. It had nothing really to do with spend, because at that point I didn't spend on online advertising until maybe 2 years in, two and a half years in.
Amazing. Well, I'm sorry, Trent, go ahead.
No, that's fantastic, especially on that, when you hear people spending so much money on it just to get to that level. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Totally. Well, perhaps down the line, we'll have to have you on Taste Radio to talk about how you built your brand with only $5,000 and became a #1 seller on Amazon, because that's a pretty amazing story.
Thank you.
Dina, I will never forget how to pronounce your name again, because I'll think of James Dean. But I'm going to probably mispronounce every other Deanna out there because of this.
They probably just spelled it right. You know, my parents came from Lebanon. They like James Dean. I don't know what to tell you. They had my sister do my birth certificate because she's older than me. And I was just like, okay.
There you go. Well, who doesn't like James
better
Dean?
story, you leave it alone.
Oh, Dina, thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. Congrats on everything you've done to this point, and good luck with everything going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love good stories like that in terms of the personal and the brand. And it sounds like we've got both when it comes to good Ds. All right, to our final guest of the show, that's Doug Smith, who is the co-founder of Paleo Pro. Doug, how are you?
Great. How are you, Ray?
Very good. Thank you so much for your patience. I always wonder, like, you know, the person who's last up in our episode has been waiting in our chat room for a long time, listening, and I really appreciate you just taking the time to be with us. Paleo Pro, tell us about it. It sounds pretty straightforward.
Sounds fairly obvious what it is.
It sounds
yes.
fairly obvious, but what do you guys sell? What do you do?
We sell paleo diet-centric foods and dietary supplements. So, which seems like a misnomer, because most times the paleo diet instills an idea that you don't eat packaged food or processed food. But we are in 2020, and it's tough to go in your backyard and hunt for your own food or grow your own food. So we're kind of a middle ground of, we always say you should eat food first. However, we're all busy. We lead busy lives, and this is a good alternative to kind of not eat a Snickers bar or go to McDonald's.
Well, you sell a lot of different products. You go to your
We do.
website, paleopro.com, and I'm looking at powders, bars, bone broth collagen, all kinds of things, coffee. How do you think about when, you know, this line of products? I mean, are you selling to all the same consumers? Like, does the same consumer buy all your products? Or I guess, how do you market the variety of things that you sell?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with myself and, you know, the other co-founders of the company. Really, it's just an idea cage that we kind of just visit all the time and explore. We're lucky enough that I own another company where we're a contract manufacturer, so we're a co-packer. So it's very easy for us to explore new products because we are the manufacturer. But the reality is, you know, the company started 6-7 years ago out of a personal necessity need for myself. I was in a bad car accident. And at that time, I really realized how nutrition could affect your healing ability, inflammation, all that stuff. So at the core, you know, our product line started with the protein powder, and that was really all we had. And it expanded and grew really fast at Whole Foods and Sprouts and all these other venues. And we just started creating new products that fit within the realm of what our customer base wanted. So, Yeah, there are some customers that will kind of consume everything that we have. People that follow the paleo diet are pretty neurotic about it. So they want to stay within the rules of that diet. So, but a lot of the ideas that come about for new products come from them, where they're like, we'd really love a coffee that, we can use pre-workout that has all these other additives to it. So that's how a lot of these things come about. So some ingredients or some items are bought, singular by one customer, and some customers buy everything. It's tough to say.
Yeah.
You bundle some of your packages together, like when you sell online. Do you give a deal if they buy six different items?
Yeah,
categories?
we do. We do direct to consumer and through Amazon. We try to be careful with that though, because we are so proliferated. Wegmans and Kroger and Whole Foods and Sprouts. We don't want to direct compete with them. So it's definitely a balance that we have. But we have offered, if you buy this product, you get this in return. But we're definitely careful with how we do that.
Talk about your retail footprint at this point. You mentioned a few big retailers. Where are you sold, and how many stores are you available?
We're sold in thousands of stores at this point. It seems like our sweet spot is with higher end grocery retail, be it a Whole Foods, some of the Kroger brands that are, I'm trying to think, like King Soopers is a big one for us. Sprouts, more of the health food centered grocery store chains is really where our product sells the most. Amazon has been kind of the dark horse that has grown, I think, let alone for us, but for everybody. And it depends. Some stores will sell our entire line. Some stores will sell just our protein and bone broth. Some stores will sell just our bars. So it's a mix and match of all of them.
Speaking of bars, manufacture everything? Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Trent.
You manufacture everything you sell?
We manufacture everything we sell. So that is the one positive and also negative, because it's very difficult to manufacture. I understand why most companies outsource everything. We don't. So it creates some headaches, but at the same time, it does give us the power to really create what we want without added stuff that a manufacturer may say, this has to have this flow agent or something else, or it needs to be packaged a certain way. We control all of that, which is powerful.
And you can control your inventory, your cash flow, everything from that aspect. You don't have to produce based on their line time, based on their volumes. You can produce,
we have basically, we have one less hand in the pocket, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you're making your new paleo meat bars in the same facility that you're making your powders.
Correct.
Tell us about those meat bars, because they are the newest product in your line.
They are the newest. I will say we are coming out with, in the next couple of weeks, we're about to launch a whole animal organ capsule line, which sounds kind of strange and weird, but the most nutrient dense products in the world out of any vegetable, fruit, or anything is really an animal's organ. So we're desiccating these, we're drying them, and we're putting them in capsules, which is essentially nature's vitamin and mineral blend, essentially. So we're coming out with that. We're coming out with a new, we call it a real electrolyte drink, because most electrolyte drinks are just flavoring and sweetener. This is really important for people that follow a paleo diet, because most times it's a carbohydrate free diet, which means your electrolytes can get a little out of whack. So going back to the bars, the bars are an interesting endeavor for us. They took us about 2.5 years to develop. So it is a meat bar, but it is not a meat bar. It's not similar to an Epic bar, where it's essentially beef jerky that's kind of pushed together. It is actually a dried beef powder that is put into a bar that's more similar to, let's just say, a Quest bar. So it doesn't have that beef jerky-esque type flavor or consistency to it. It's more like a typical, protein bar that's out there.
Everything that you just said in the last minute blew my mind, including the animal capsule. What are the animal capsule? What?
So it's basically grass-fed beef from Sweden. as well as South America, where we're taking their organs, which, you know, most times in, let's just say in America, we don't have a taste for organ meat. However, the rest of the world actually does. The products we eat from animals is really the muscle tissue, and that's what we have a taste for. However, although that's super nutrient dense, it's not like the liver or the heart or the spleen or something like that. So we are, and that's a major growing, it's a growing different brands, especially on Amazon. If you see these desiccated liver capsules and tablets, and that's something that we're just about to launch.
I never thought we'd hear about desiccated liver tablets on the live stream, but hey, here we are.
Yes, you are.
A big day for us. Trent, you know, paleo has been a significant trend in our industry for some time now. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how, you know, the trend has evolved in New York City, and, you know, what your thoughts are on Paleo Pro as being a force and a leader within the category in that market.
Well, it definitely was a trend, and it definitely wasn't just a flash in the pan. I mean, I think we launched a paleo bar 8 years ago with Caveman, and it wasn't true paleo, but it had the word paleo, and paleo snacks were just coming out, and to see what it's doing right now, it continues to evolve and continue to develop. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's what we used to eat. It's what you should eat, you know. And when you think about the organs, I'm sure back when we ate everything. My grandparents ate everything, you know,
Yeah.
including organs and everything else. So it's a no-brainer. And to bring that back in a way that's, you know, one consumable. I'm sure that capsule's not easy in any stretch to produce and put the ingredient inside it. It's relative to making it nutritious. But going in the right direction, that paleo just continues to grow, continues to be a part of the set in every store. And you've got buyers there for it. And, you know, as CrossFit grows and different ways for athletes to go out and do things, they're looking for one up, and that'll probably be the next one for them. I'm sure you got a hit there.
Is are convenient forms of eating, you know, eating paleo, so to speak, is that the biggest opportunity? And this is a question for both of you, you know, Doug and Trent, or is it, you know, the powders and the things that the tablets and the sort of supplements that you were talking about? Because, you know, when I think about paleo, I am thinking about those bars. I am thinking about meat bars and just sort of, you know, adding a paleo component to my diet, versus saying, okay, I'm going to go kind of hardcore with the tablets and powders. And I'm calling it hardcore because I'm a mainstream consumer.
Yeah, I think, you know, the truth be told, although the name of our brand is Paleo Pro, I hate the term paleo with passion. The whole, because you were saying before, you know, I guess this isn't a flash in the pan. And I always tell people, they're like, aren't you afraid the paleo diet's going to fade away? And I always say, if eating happy, healthy animals and eating happy, healthy plants is a fad, then we have major problems in, let alone the United States, the world. So that's why I kind of hate that there's something termed to it, like the word paleo. How I look at it is it's just a healthy way to eat. But with that being said, it's tough today, you know, to cook every single meal to eat, let's just say, you know, the paleo-esque lifestyle. So how I look at it, it's not so much about the powders or the forms at which we package these items. It's really, this is how we have to do it, to be the middle ground between, you know, eating garbage, something somebody shouldn't eat, and eating something they should, you know, as in real food. So we've always kind of tried to be that middle ground. And sometimes it skews in different directions, and you have some people that are, you know, quote unquote, really hardcore paleo, that they're like, this isn't paleo. And I always say to them, like, well, shopping at a grocery store isn't paleo either. You should be like in a loincloth with a spear. So there's always this whole, there's this middle ground, and you got to see where people lay within it. And how I look at it, as long as somebody's consuming something that's going to make them healthier than they were before, I'm fine with it.
Well, that's a fantastic way of looking at it. And I feel like you told me something that I didn't think about before. So thank you very much for that, Doug. And thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. I really appreciate it. Good luck with everything going forward. And
thank you.
Please send us some of those tablets and capsules. If I probably will take a couple looks at the bottle before I might have one, but I'm very—
You'll be the first. Give us a couple weeks. You'll be the first to know.
Okay, fantastic. I'll hold you to that, Doug. Thank you so much once again, and looking forward to staying in touch.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Wow, just an amazing, diverse lineup of products, entrepreneurs, and positioning for our food and beverage industry just in this one episode. Trent, just some really interesting stuff that we're seeing come to market and ones that are already existing and thriving on the market. To make it in New York City, and we talked about this in our education series, is pretty tough. I mean, just based on what you saw today from the entrepreneurs, are they all kind of in the right, taking the right direction or taking the right steps in the right direction to be successful in a major metro market like New York?
I think so. I think at what today, really looking at the categories and what we traveled around the entire grocery store from capsules and vitamins all the way to, meats and beverages and fruit. I mean, all across the store, baking. So, I mean, really was kind of neat to see it. And certain brands here, certainly seen them develop from, their first packaging and where they've come today. So, and gone well and doing very well. So I think the ones that are just coming out to market are where they need to be. And the ones that are well ahead of that, the curve, are doing extremely well. I think the one thing I noticed with everybody was the online piece. And I think that's becoming more and more part of everybody's business, especially with what's going on in the last couple of months. I've seen huge spikes in certain aspects, and what's interesting to see, especially for Matt, looking for other opportunities online, not just an Amazon or off his own website, but looking for other opportunities in that shopping area as well. But interesting to see different brands here on different development levels and where they've taken it. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I have a feeling that some folks watching who are also interested in selling in New York City and getting off to the right foot in that market would love to get in touch with you. What is the best way to get in touch with you? And do you accept samples of products being sent to your office?
All the time, but just email me, Trent@GothamBrands.com, Trent@GothamBrands.com. We're happy to get back to you.
Fantastic. Trent, love doing this with you. Love talking to you all the time. I feel like this is I've had an opportunity to speak with you online probably 2 or 3 times now in the past month. So you know what? To heck with the pandemic. I'm enjoying speaking with you. I'm enjoying this opportunity to have you be a part of our great community here at BevNet and Nosh. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Really appreciate it, and can't wait to get up there and see you guys in person pretty soon. So
Me too. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode of BevNet's Elevator Talk live stream. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to our fantastic co-host, Trent Moffitt of Gotham Brand Managers. Stay tuned or tune in every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for a new episode of Elevator Talk live stream. Until then, signing off for our amazing team at BevNet and Nosh. I'm Ray Latif. We'll talk to you next week.